is going to be Tuesday, and this is a bait that a bunch of y'all have asked me about. One that I wanted to make sure and get done for this year. Okay, so this is the Fat Flat. The baits that I've shown little videos of here and there, this one probably has had the most interest, or it's been way up there in the top 2 or 3. The Little Cliffy, you know, obviously I love the Little Cliffy, or I wouldn't have named it the Little Cliffy. The Little Cliffy has been a dynamite and will always be a dynamite crankbait. And it has totally replaced my desire to throw a Shad Rap or a lot of other real small profile baits. The Little Cliffy for me is just it. It's everything that I want in that style bait, from a castability and action, the way, you know, the depth that it will run, etc., etc. So the Fat Flat is basically you could call it the Big Cliffy, which is something that a lot of y'all have asked for. I mean, a lot of people have asked for. I didn't call it a Big Cliffy because we already have a Little Cliffy. We have a Fat Little Cliffy. And I mean, how many Cliffies can you have? So I went with Fat Flat. Now, for those of y'all that aren't familiar with the Little Cliffy, and you're looking at just this bait, not trying to compare it to the Little Cliffy, but if you despise flat baits because they're hard to cast, and you're wanting a flat side action crankbait that will throw like a rock and will get deeper than by far most normal flat-sided crankbaits, you know, the best flat-side crankbait days are normally those nasty, cold, wintertime days, early spring days. Conditions that can make throwing a potato chip thin crankbait very challenging, to say the least. This bait solves all of that. You can throw this thing on a 12-pound test line with a casting reel. It will actually, believe it or not, this bait will get 8 to 9 foot on 12-pound test line. It will for sure get 9 foot on 10. It's still a small profile. This is just a very user-friendly cold water crankbait. And again, it's kind of like the Seducer. You know, I have learned the last several years that our offshore fish get so much pressure now with the electronics the way they are. It's like everybody, you know, we used to all wait for the fish to go spawn, and now it seems like most anglers are counting the days for them to show up offshore because they want to fish for them with their electronics. And hey, that's all fine and good, but the problem is it has put a tremendous amount more pressure on those offshore fish. And I've learned the last couple of years that throwing these, you know, different crankbaits, handmade crankbaits out offshore, which is not really where they've always shined, can pay huge dividends. You can pick a bait like this up oftentimes and throw it in a school of fish that's in 6-7 foot of water offshore on a shallow hard spot or shell or a shallow drop, whatever it might be. After you've already caught a handful on, say, a regular standard crankbait, and they shy off of it, so many times you can pick this bait up. I did it multiple times this past year, and get them to fire right back up and catch you another 5 or 6 fish off of a place, which can be huge, especially for fishing tournaments. So the Fat Flat is, I've actually had this bait in my boat for 2 years. And I've just been kind of, you know, I like to fish with these baits for a long time just to make sure that I'm truly happy with them. I don't want to put a bait out there that I don't feel like I've thoroughly tested. But the Fat Flat is ready to go. And I think this is a bait that I'm very excited to release. I think this bait is going to really, really be liked by a lot of anglers. I get a lot of people that comment on Facebook or message me, you know, hey man, what reel do you use to throw, you know, a flat bait with? Because they have a lot of difficulty throwing flat-sided crankbaits because of their lightness. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I will never throw a thin flat side. They have their place as well. But for common day-to-day use, you want a good wintertime crankbait or a cold water crankbait that you can sure enough cast without a lot of difficulty. The Fat Flat's going to be it. And again, like I say, for all of y'all that have been asking me for the last 2 years, are you ever going to make a Big Cliffy? This is the Big Cliffy.